Hey, what is up guys? Max Weigand here. So today, let's talk about pressure and specifically how to turn these stressful and anxiety-provoking and fear-creating situations and circumstances in our lives and turn and transform them into something that actually builds excitement, joy, and peak performance. So specifically, you're gonna learn how to actually enjoy the process of facing difficulties and challenges more, and as a result of that, how you're gonna learn to perform at a much higher level than you would if you were stuck in stressful and anxiety creating emotions. And so that's exactly what we'll talk about today. Now, in order to get started, I want to share this idea of an ancient Stoic philosopher called Epictetus. Epictetus was a really fascinating guy that lived about 2,000 years ago. He was born a slave in ancient Rome and eventually won his own freedom and then moved to Greece in order to start his own school of philosophy and essentially teach all the Roman and the Greek youth on how to live a good life. And so one day he's talking to his students and he shares a story of the Roman Gladiators, the ancient Roman fighters, facing off in the Roman Colosseum to death. And he shares the story of them and how they view pressure. And he says, those guys, they don't view pressure as this terrifying thing, right? In fact, they don't run from the pressure. They don't run from, facing death in the Colosseum. No, they actually look forward to it. He says, pressure to them is a privilege. It's their greatest honor. It's their greatest opportunity. It's the greatest thing they get to do in their lives is actually stand there in the middle of the arena in front of thousands of people and show what they're capable of. Be tested to their human and their physical and their mental and emotional and spiritual strengths to their limits in order to see what they're truly made of as human beings. And so he says, I wish that all of us approached life in the same way, that all of us viewed pressure as a privilege, as this grandiose opportunity for you and I to see what we're truly capable of, to really test our limits at the edges of our comfort zones and our skill zones. And the truth is that you and I, we're all in the same situation. We might not be, fighting literally to death, even though I don't know, your crazy dreams and goals, but I'm assuming you're not gonna die in the pursuit of what you're really seeking in your life. And so you and I, what we're really scared of is fear of rejection or judgment or not being good enough or looking stupid or saying something stupid or what if I fail and I realize I'm just not good enough. I don't have the skills yet. Those are the fears that most human beings nowadays are facing, right? It's these fears of embarrassment and rejection, not being good enough. And so how do you deal with those? Well, it starts out with realizing that all of these feelings in those moments of pressure are simply not useful. Whether it's you walking out to give a presentation or you're like, you're the modern day equivalent of a Roman, gladiator, you're an Olympic athlete, right? You're walking out on stage to perform today, you're a musician, right? Whatever it is that you're doing in your life, maybe it's just you're going on a first date, right? You're feeling that pressure. All of these emotions in that moment are not useful and not helpful for, first of all, enjoying the process, and secondly, for performing at your best. Why? Because what happens neuroscientifically when you get in these high-level negative emotions, the fear, the anxiety, the stress, what happens is the amygdala, this tiny almond-shaped size part of the brain, there's really this sort of emotional center of the brain, it gets activated and it really starts overriding all of the logical parts of the brain, the prefrontal cortex right here at the front center of the brain, which is responsible for goal setting and reasoning and logical thinking and long-term planning and long-term decision making. This part of the brain gets overridden by the amygdala, this fear center of the brain, when we get in these high-level emotional states. And then what happens is, in neuroscience we say, as emotions rise, intelligence drops. Meaning, your ability to make effective decisions, to stick to long-term resolutions, to perform at your best is severely diminished when we get in these really stressful, anxiety-provoking states of mind. And so clearly none of that is useful if you want to perform at your best. If you want to shine on stage in front of, hundreds of people, or if you're in this boardroom meeting and you want to convince your coworkers, or if you're, an athlete and you want to perform at your best and you want to really need these, super high level, specific physical skills, well, then you can't be in these negative, stressed out states because you're going to make mistakes. You're going to stumble over your words, whatever is going to be specifically for you. And so what we need to learn is just like the Roman gladiators, how to turn pressure into privilege, how to view it as this grandiose opportunity to actually test your limits. And it starts out, first of all, by seeing that being in a stressed out and frustrated and anger or afraid state of mind is simply not helpful for enjoyment and for your performance. And so what we need to do instead is we need to get in this calm, flowing state of mind that actually allows us to be totally present in that moment. And so that keeps going. The next step then is really getting clear on what that actually looks like for you. Getting clear on the fact that, pressure is an opportunity. And the only way that you're going to perform at your highest level is by actually seeing it as that. Seeing it as that opportunity to test your limits. Because, world records, grandiose, breathtaking pieces of art and work and creativity, they aren't created in, the practice rounds. They're created in the Olympic final, right? The world championship final, when everything's on the line. We've got to put everything out there. When you truly test it to the limit of your capabilities, that's when a Usain Bolt runs a world record of 100, 200 meters. That's when really all of these phenomenal feats are established. They're not done in practice rounds. They're done when the pressure is high. Why? Because the pressure forces you to level up. It forces you to really bring all of yourself out there, to really give it your all, because you know that otherwise you're not going to be able to hang in there. And so the pressure of Olympic final, the pressure of a boardroom meeting, the pressure of having to show up for your kids, or having to show up at the state, or having to show up wherever it is that matters to you, that pressure is actually an opportunity for you because it draws out the resources, the energy, it centers you, it makes you present, it makes you focus on this moment, because in those moments you're not going to be thinking about anything else anymore. You're not going to be thinking about what's going to happen next week. You're not going to be thinking about yesterday and the good food you had. No. In those moments of pressure, when everything's on the line, you're just so monomaniacally focused on the present moment and using that actively, but really allowing yourself to get into the state of mind, to get present, to get centered, to not focus on the outcomes of that journey, but to only focus on the process of every single moment, delivering the highest quality output that you can deliver. Meaning every single moment of that performance, whatever that looks like for you, you're going to view this as an opportunity to give it your all in this very moment. Meaning when you're running a marathon, every single second, every single step of that is an opportunity to run with excellence, to place your foot in the ideal way, to breathe in the perfect way, to use your elbows and your arms in the ideal way, whatever it is, right? But every single tiny piece of movement is an opportunity to wring out just a tiny bit more of potential outside of you. And as you do that, as you're so monomaniacally focused on just getting the most out of every single moment, as you're focused on not how you're gonna look, but instead really getting the most out of you, pressure starts to become a privilege. Why? Because you realize that it's the only way for you to become your best self. It's the only way for you to find out how good you can truly become at life. The only way to do that is to actually put yourself in these high pressure situations where you have to put everything on the line so you stand a chance of winning. And so when you put yourself in these situations with the kind of mindset of looking at pressure as a privilege, not only becomes it fun and it becomes exciting and becomes a fun challenge because you get to see how capable you truly are, but you're also going to perform at a much higher level. And so that's really my wish for all of you guys today, is that you start viewing pressure as a privilege, as a great opportunity to truly see how much am I capable of and how much better can I still be every single moment of my life.